All right. Good morning, everybody. So nice to have you with me. I'm going to lose weight today. That's the theme of the show. You don't have to wait to lose weight. I think one of the things that can be hard as we're heading on a health journey is we think health is far away. Health is somewhere that it's a long road full of struggle and difficulty, and then one day maybe we can get there. And what I want to lean into today is to say we can be in that space right now, and we can find a space that is pleasant, that we have contentment in that space. That's what I'm trying to do on this channel. And we can do it right now. So grab a coffee or tea if you're with me, or just a water, calorie-free beverage of choice. And we're going to lean into a fasting practice, and happy to talk about every other way, every supportive practice that can help you lose weight, not only losing it, but also doing it for free. Christy's with us. Good morning. So nice to have you here. Hope you're doing well today. Yes, feel free to say hi in the chat. Say hi in the comments if you're coming through. And I do hope that we make this space also into a place where, okay, we're doing this practice together. A fasting practice is something, of course, you can do it all by yourself. It doesn't require anything. That's what I want to lean into here. No expensive gym memberships or equipment, no supplements or expensive things to buy at all. And in fact, when you think about it, okay, fasting is nothing. It's a period of openness and space where we lean into the body, right? Start trusting the body. I think in a lot of ways in our society, we don't trust the body. We think, oh, we have to do all of these things, all of these requirements. And if we don't get everything just right, man, everything is going to go badly. But fasting teaches us a different lesson, right? Fasting teaches us the body is powerful. The body has resources, and actually it can take care of itself quite well for a period of time, even without anything. And certainly, of course, you cannot fast forever. And simple fasting as a process is just tiny bits of fasting. I don't do extended fasting. I don't talk about very, very long fasting, many days or weeks. And of course, people do this, but that's not simple fasting, okay? Simple fasting is like opening up a few more hours in the day than we usually might. Just like taking a little deeper breath. Sometimes when we're stressed, right, we get into real shallow breathing. It's feeding this cycle of anxiety. That's kind of like when we're always eating. It's like eating, no space. It's like take a breath. Taking a big deep breath helps us reduce our anxiety, a very, very good thing to do. Taking a little space in our eating, also very refreshing and calming in the body. So one of the things that is a barrier or a struggle to losing weight in general, for any reason, certainly for doing a fasting practice, is hunger cravings and being stuck in a cycle of eating. So what we're doing right now, it's the morning. If you're here with me live, you slept overnight, you ate last night. Now we're in a fasting space. Like you think of that word breakfast, right? Breakfast is like breaking the fast. It's like we haven't done it. All right. Grab your coffee, grab whatever you're drinking. Staying hydrated. And that is pleasant. Like I'm enjoying the coffee right now. And if you can find contentment in a space, then you say, okay, what's happening in the body? We're doing a fasting right now, the very earliest steps. So the body, our metabolism, it's like a big switch. When we eat something, we flip it over to on. We turn on our food burning, okay? And people don't think of our metabolism as either or. They just think of it as this big pool of energy, And that's why we get stuck in this paradigm just of counting calories. They say, well, we're going to count calories our way to weight loss. And it's like, well, calories do have value. I don't want to say calories don't have any value, but we need to think about the purpose of the system and what's happening. So we have body fat, we have reserve sugar storage. That stuff's there to power the body. And we say, but I don't want it. This is why we want to lose weight. We say, I have too much of that. It's like, well, every time we eat, we're sending a signal to the body to flip over and run off the food. Body always runs off of food first. So when we eat, flipping that switch, telling the body, burn the food now. And then there's a lot of energy in food, thankfully, right? So that food comes into the body. We start burning through that energy. We're digesting it, running it through the system. Body's extracting all of that energy. And the most efficient thing always to do with food energy when we're eating it is to run the system off of it. So when we're eating and we're burning through that energy, that's controlled in the body by hormones, mainly insulin. So people understand insulin from thinking about type 2 diabetes, right? That insulin's helping bringing our blood sugar down. But people don't realize the other side of insulin, which everybody, whether you have diabetes or prediabetes or anything, everybody's using insulin. Yes, insulin is helping us get that energy into our body, but insulin also blocks access to body fat storage. And that's how the body controls, okay, where's the energy coming from? And this is when we're trying to lose weight, we want to really think about hormones and what is happening in the body hormonally. So here we give some space. We ate. We're letting the body process through that food as we're bringing it into the body, and the body's running off of it. But of course, there's a finite amount of energy in that food. And so once we burn through it, okay, you could imagine a little calorie meter is counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We hit the end. Okay, all that food energy has been processed. Now we're over here in a fasting space. Because as soon as we run out of food energy, okay, is it game over? No, thankfully. Body is incredibly resilient. Body is redundant energy systems there to help us. And this is what our energy storage is about giving us a resource so that when the food runs out, okay, we don't just keel over. Now, here is like a caveat, right? Here is a point. If we are always eating and we never train the body's ability to handle a fasting space, this is why I like to use a weightlifting analogy a lot, is like if we never lifted a weight and then we try to go in and lift a lot of weights, to say the body's going to be overwhelmed. So if we've never done a fasting space, we're always eating. Okay, then you just try to open up some fasting space. I always picture the body waving a white flag. It's like, hey, what are you doing to me? Like, this is not what we do. Like, where is the food, right? This is why I always tell people, if you like the idea, lose weight now, lose weight for free, okay? Beautiful ideas, okay? The process is in the doing of it, the learning of it, and the way you start out at it, I think, is very important. The way I try to approach everything always on this channel, in the writing, simplefasting.com, all of these thoughts, very thoughtful, very gentle, with a long-term approach. If you think about it like weightlifting, then it helps. You wouldn't walk into a gym with no experience weightlifting and then, try to bench press hundreds of pounds. So you want to do the same thing with a fasting practice. Approach it gently so that you show the body, oh, this is something that, you remember how we do this. Let's lean into it. We got this. You just find the line. You start opening up a little bit of space. Maybe it's just the coffee in the morning. If you're normally someone who gets up and you say, I have breakfast right away, but I like having something to drink. Maybe you're just opening up an extra hour, even half an hour. It doesn't matter where you start. Just start a process to say, I'm going to give this little gift, this space to the body, a little open space. This is how you start going down that path. Is completing the cycle, right? So we talk about body fat. Body fat is there to power the body. I like to say fill in the gaps, okay? So most of the time, you say most of the time we're eating and we're running off that food energy. And then sometimes we encounter more food than we need, and the body has this beautiful system. And you might not think of it that way, okay? But try to reframe, right? Body has this beautiful system where it can take extra energy that we encounter in our life, and it can make it a part of us. And then we carry it with us. If we get out of this gilded age we're in, where we're just floating in an ocean full of food, right? Food is everywhere. And it's a miracle. Let's dial the clock back 1,000 or 2 years, and you think about trying to be a human being making their way in the world. It's like, where is the next meal coming from? And especially and then we keep turning the clock back, and we're hunter-gatherers, and it's like we are spending most of our time trying to survive, right? Trying to find the next day's food. And you think of the lean seasons, right? The frigid winter that is just brutal, and the famine and the drought and the things, but a human being survives, right? And part of the reason we survive is because the body during the good times, right? And here we're in good times, and let's be grateful for that. Let's be so grateful for it. During the good times, the body stores that extra energy for us, makes it a part of us, and then when we run into the gaps, right? When the difficult season comes, we have energy, and the body says, hey, we got this. We prepared. Everything is okay, and it fills in the gaps. So we're in this beautiful space, right? Where no gaps in food. So now, though, this is what a fasting path is, a part of a path to lose weight, right? Is to just recognize, hey, the body has this system. The body has stored this energy. Now we can complete the cycle. We encountered extra food energy. The body has stored it for us. Now we can voluntarily, thoughtfully, gently open up that space. I love to think of it as like giving a gift to the body. Open space is coming. Body is like, hey, look at this. Hey, we've got plans for that. Food energy is gone. Body starts clearing out that body fat energy, starts releasing it. Then the hormones change, right? The insulin level drops, counter-regulatory hormones come out, start pulling that energy back out. The thing I love about that process, okay, completely natural, does not require any supplement, does not require any medication. It's not incompatible with a medication. If you're taking some weight loss medication, it's the type of thing that can help you to do that. And that's really the point. We're in this season where, a lot of weight loss medications in favor and people finding success from it. Okay, but what does it help you do? Like, it helps you bring less of that energy into the system, makes you not as hungry, okay? Helps you to open up that space, more space without food, so that you can get into that space. So when you get into that mindset, you say, well, that's very interesting. Lose weight for free, right, would be no copays, no expensive anything else required. So it's not that you can't do it, but if you're looking for a way to get into that space without having to do that, or you've had side effects from something like that, the thing that we're missing in the body is, how does hunger actually work? Hunger is about patterns more than anything else in the body. Have you had it where it's like you're eating and it just doesn't sit right, and it's like the digestion is not organized? That can be, uncomfortable. Digestion actually a very, very complex process. If you think about everything that happens, everything broken down into atomic particles and sorted into their types, and the body just does incredible amount of work for us that we take for granted. And in order to keep that in a good cycle, the body uses hormones to help regulate it. And it's mainly based on the patterns of when we eat. So do you experience that? You usually eat at a certain time. You tend to get hungry at that time because the body is looking ahead and saying, we're kind of a person that eats at this time and this time. Then the body gets ready. When everything is prepared, all the digestive enzymes and processes, when things are set, the body puts out a chemical called ghrelin, a hormone. And ghrelin is what makes us physically feel hungry. And that's determined in large measure by these patterns of when we eat. This is why it is very difficult when we're eating all the time, very frequently. Then the body's getting the message, okay, we got to have the digestive system on all the time. And then we end up feeling hungry frequently all the time. It's kind of in this space. This is one of the really, really unappreciated benefits of having a fasting practice as at least part of your weight loss experience. Because when we dial down the food intake into specific sections and we put it in a pattern, then those hormones that make us feel hungry tend to line up at the times when we're usually eating. And then that open space, then the body is getting the message. Like, hey, this is kind of a food-free space. This is when we run off the storage system. This is what it is designed to do. And that is what can help bring the system back into balance. Bringing a system back into balance is like finding contentment without food. And if you can find contentment without food in a space, then it is not a struggle. Then it's a space that you can work through and just embrace and kind of sit in that space. There is my quick thought of the morning is like, what is the path to lose weight for free? Okay, especially from a fasting perspective, there's the physiology that's outlining what's happening in the body. How you get to it in a space to find contentment in that space. Complete the cycle, bring things back into balance. No money required to do that. And then when you get a pattern like that, of course, you can bring in every other good thing into it. Exercise, you start leaning into some exercise on top of that. That is, a way to superpower. Also, exercise also can be a free process. Body doesn't know if you're in a gym or where you are. Move your body in a healthy way can be as simple taking a walk. Most people, here is a path that I would consider difficult. Difficult doesn't mean you can't do it. A difficult path, try to keep eating all the time and then exercise enough to burn through all the food and then make it through, the excess that you want to get rid of also. I say, well, that's a lot of work. Okay, now human being, I say a lot. Human being, powerful being, capable of doing difficult things. And people can do that. People do incredible amounts of work and you can do it. And so like if that's somebody's path, someone says, I don't want to do any fasting. I just want to blast it out in the gym for as long as it takes. And I would say, if 1 out of 30 people can do that, is really great. And I'm a huge exerciser and I'm a great advocate of it. So nothing I say is opposed to it. Everybody exercises as much as they can or desire to do. I'm just saying it's a difficult way to try to lose weight. The simpler path that I've tried to outline for people is say, open up that fasting space first. Build out those pathways where it doesn't feel like a challenge, right? And usually it takes 2 or 3 weeks before people are like, oh yeah, the body is kind of settling into a groove with it. It's not so intense, then it starts to feel good, then you're in this space to grab a coffee, you can just feel it in the body. It's like a big deep breath. And the body's like, yeah, we got this. Okay, when you start to feel that way, that's when I tell people, now's the time to start leaning into it, Now go out in that fasting space and try to take a little walk around the neighborhood and see how you feel. If you're not feeling well, of course, you never push it. And if you don't know how your body's going to respond, it's like, always have a backup plan, you stop at any point. But then you see you're starting to open up the path of least resistance. You say there's a certain amount of energy storage. Once I was doing a little calculation, like, and I'd have to redo it. But like, someone has 30 pounds that they want to lose, and this is where a calorie can kind of come in and start to be helpful. Somebody has a pound of body fat is something like 3,000 calories. And so you have 30 pounds you want to lose, 30, 60, 120,000 calories. You say, well, that's like a big resource, right? I mean, that's a lot of energy there. And then you think about how much food that we are eating. You say, oh, and then there's 2,000 calories coming in every day. This is a way to kind of quantify it. It's like, well, you don't want to work through all of that. You say, if we have to work through it, here's the thing as I think about that. A phrase I like to say a lot is like, let fasting do the work. Okay, like I was saying, thinking of like going to a gym and having to burn through all those calories. Okay, look at what happens in a fasting space. We're sitting here right now. We're in a fasting space. We're drinking our black coffee or whatever we have. No calories coming in. Body is still running. Think of all the things that are happening in the body just to sit here, right? The big one is we're thinking, right? Like the brain is all the very most energy intense organ in the body. Brain, I think, has like 5% of our weight, but uses 25% of the energy. So it's just using a lot of energy. And that's like constant. It never changes. Not like if you think harder, like you burn more energy. It's just always running like kind of full steam. There's a big deep breath, right? That's a muscle, diaphragm working, heart always pumping. That's what takes a lot of energy. So heart just pumping, that energy it always needs. So you put all that energy, feel the skin, right? 98 degrees. It's like 70 out here, 98 in here is like a furnace is running. Always that energy is going. So don't think if you're not doing an exercise that you're not burning through any energy, okay? The metabolism is always running, bodily processes always going. Now you put all of that into a fasting space. The energy still has to come to do that. So you say, if I'm just sitting here in this empty space, open, food-free space, it's not that nothing is happening, right? A lot of stuff is happening, but you're letting the body do the work, right? You're saying, I want to burn through this energy. You say, I'm intimidated of exercise. I'm feeling stressed. This is what I really want to help people dive into. I think almost more than anything is to use fasting as a tool to help reduce stress, anxiety, just the pressure that we feel. I know that it can be extremely frustrating if you've been on a weight loss journey, if you've struggled with it, if you're trying to move toward it. I've talked with so many people in my weight clinic. People have said things to me like, this is my body. It's so frustrating not to be able to control it. Like, I want it to be a certain way, and then it's like you're fighting with the body. And this is like another layer of stress on top of everything else. I think in our culture, I've said on the channel a lot, is a consumption culture, right? In so many ways, like so many messages, the culture is like buy, consume. And so fasting in the midst of a consumption culture, to talk about fasting, okay, this is like countercultural, right? It doesn't quite jive, I think. People are like, oh, that's not what we do. I've had people directly tell me that. They'd be like, we don't do that in America, like maybe you got to be somewhere else to do that. I'm like, no, I think we should change that, because this is really what we need, The consumption culture is not moving us in a positive, healthy direction as far as I can see. Need to push back against that a little bit, opening up some space. Think of it like taking a deep breath. Think of it like if does anyone out there struggle with anxiety? Have you experienced? I've definitely had my share of anxiety, okay? taking a deep breath, right? A breathing practice, one of the very best natural ways to help move through anxiety, right? Because it's sending that parasympathetic tone, right? That calming tone, right? Some stress is coming in, right? That activates adrenergic system, right? Fight or flight, adrenaline, okay? Parasympathetic system, take a deep breath, is telling the body, everything's okay. Everything's going to be all right. Calm everything back down. Fasting is like the parallel for that with our eating and the consumption. When we open up that space and then you realize, hey, actually everything is okay. It's a very powerful space to be in, a very powerful mindset to develop. That everything is okay, that the body is strong and capable, and that it can strengthen, and that we can interact with it in a way that can help it to flourish and regain its strength. That's the mindset that helps that space when you feel alienated from your body, when you feel like you can't trust it. Even apart from weight loss, right? Just to be able to feel more comfortable in your own skin and trust the body and lean into it, even if you never lost any weight. If you felt more comfortable, if it helped to reduce anxiety and stress, like it would be worth it in and of itself to not feel trapped in cycles of eating where you have to keep doing it, and to bring everything to a more stable, grounded baseline. This is a sort of benefits that fasting can offer even apart from weight loss. And I love focusing on those because as you lean into those and you feel it and experience it, those are actually the things that help you stick with it. And then sticking with it is the path that you walk to actually accomplish the weight loss goals that you are looking for. So I think it's really profound. This is my thought of the morning. I think a fasting practice is really profound on so many levels, both for our mental health, for our physical health, for weight loss goals. You know, we could go in a whole zone of like just about the cost of it, you know. The fact that this is something that is free. And this is what I want to lean into on the channel. I changed the little, banners on the channel. Just lose weight for free. And I'm going to spend some time thinking about this a lot and diving into it. I've had a focus here. I've done a lot of talking about diabetes. I'm splitting out all my diabetes stuff over to Dr. Z method. And if anyone you know is struggling with type 2 diabetes, I'm going to put it in the chat. DRZ. The Dr. Z method. Send people over there, Dr. Z method. I'm going to focus some professional time, just really dialing in and help people with that. And I think that's going to let things on simple fasting here, like really dial in specifically on weight loss. And there's a lot of overlap between these two. But I think here we'll just try to focus on that on a very simple, free path that I think could help so many people. There's very few things in our society today that are free. And fasting is free. And so I'm really resonating with the idea, really lean into that on a simple fasting channel here. It's just to say, hey, like, okay, you say fasting very profound, right? But then it's also nothing, you know what I mean? And so it's very easy to gloss over it. And I think that's part of what's happened in our society, right? Is that we're so wrapped up in big and new and high tech and fancy and exciting and expensive, like all these sort of things, that is like these foundational things, like, open food-free space. Like, who ever heard of that? Who ever thought of that? Like, what kind of an idea is that? And I think it's hard for people to focus on it. And so I think we've missed the deep, very deep, profound meaning and significance and role that it plays in the body. It's like, how do you study nothing, right? Like what kind of researchers say, oh, I want to study nothing, Hard to get a grant for something like that. I would know. I got a grant to do a fasting study, and it took like 4 or 5 years to do one tiny little study. If you haven't seen my video on the study, just look through the channel. I did a fascinating study on helping people with type 2 diabetes who are using insulin to get off insulin using fasting. It was probably the coolest thing I ever did in medicine. I'm so happy that the paper's out there. I would love to talk about it in a broader fashion. That's what I'm talking about, though, about how profound it is like, I'll balance. I'll still talk some about diabetes. I focus so much on diabetes. But like the big idea with weight loss, right? If we can focus on weight loss, okay, that really helps diabetes, right? If you have pre-diabetes, can move you out of that way. If you don't have any sort of blood sugar problem, but you're overweight, it means there's insulin resistance happening in the body. So if we can get way upstream, right? And you say, okay, I don't want to go down that path. I want to deal with the insulin resistance now before it turns into any sort of blood sugar problem or other metabolic problem. Okay, lose weight right now. Well, you can do that for free. Like, if you can go on American Diabetes Association, right now and look at they have all kinds of data on, the cost of diabetes care in America. And right at this moment, the exact numbers are fleeting me, but it's like $500 billion, like a year. And so you think, oh man, over a decade, and we're just spending trillions of dollars taking care of this and all the medicines, and it's so expensive. And you look at the healthcare system. I put one video on the channel on, fixing our healthcare system starts at home, right? About making ourselves healthy. It's very, very hard to have a functioning healthcare system when huge, swaths of people are unhealthy, okay? And this is also a big thing I think people have missed in a healthcare debate, not to take us too far off topic. You can run almost any kind of healthcare system you want, single payer, like some European thing. If your population very healthy and nobody needs it, you're not going to spend very much money, okay? So here's what we need to do. We can't control this. I don't want to turn, we won't turn this all into some big political thing. I want to stay far away from every political thing. But I tell people, sometimes I want to make a video on the channel that is like, are you dealing with a health problem? Are you trying to lose weight? Like don't worry about any political thing. Like, politics is one of these avenues. It brings so much stress and tension, conflict, division. When we're stressed and angry and upset, okay, we're raising our cortisol level. It's causing us to stress eat. It's doing all these things that has a cycle. I was like, let's create some space from that and focus on bringing health to the body. And when we have a system of helping everybody actually to be healthier, then you won't need the healthcare anyway, in as much as possible, Many things in life, things just happen, and we have to deal with it, and we can be grateful for the modern healthcare technologies and things that we have, But we want to use them as little as possible, right? And so we do the very best things to take as much care of ourselves as possible. To me, that's where the profound nature of this fasting comes in. Is like, okay, here's completely free. No co-pays, no $1,000 drugs, no nothing. So let's just sit in that space. That's what it is. That's what the practice is. You can just sit in that space. You don't have to do anything else. You say easy to do on a Sunday if you don't have to work. We're hanging out, having a coffee, right? What about the rest of the week, right? Take that mindset, right? Take this mindset, this space, Take it with you in whatever you have to do. You're running the kids wherever, you got to go to work and you got to do whatever. Okay, take the mindset, the thinking, right? The power, right? The powerful thoughts, the trust in the body, the realization of the strength and the resources that everything is going to be okay, right? That this is the path, you say, that is going to burn away the excess. Help to develop a mindset of peace and contentment, reducing a layer of stress. There's another benefit we didn't talk about. If you're trying to lean into a weight loss path, here's also a path. I talked earlier about the exercise path and how that can be much more difficult, right? Not that you can't do it. It's very healthy. Exercise about getting strong. I love it. Get strong. Okay. But hard to power through all the food and then start powering through the storage, right? Open up that fasting space. So here's another path that is difficult. Use only a dietary path of optimizing the food choices, but no fasting. And so this is where a lot of, diets go. And, there's so many different diets, and I know it gets so confusing for people. Here's just like diets that come to my mind, right? Somebody is like keto, paleo, a Mediterranean diet, vegetarian, vegan. Is it just like this whole carnivore? Is like people have so many different perspectives, and then all these different diets within things. Someone says, "Oh, I do Whole30 or South Beach or Atkins or things." I mean, there's so many, right? I look at fasting as like a lens. Okay, fasting is a lens that you can filter through so many different types of dietary practices. And that's one of the reasons on the channel that I haven't focused too much on eat this, eat this. Every diet is telling you what to eat, but nobody tells you to stop. And this is the thing that I think we need more than anything, is to just let people know, hey, it is okay to stop. And actually a big part of an effective dietary practice is learning to say no. And more, a standard diet will get you eating little bits all the time. And, I started at the beginning of this section with that switch. When you're eating all the time, you're sending all these hormonal signals out to the body that says, don't burn body fat. And I was like, well, that's not what you want. A lot of the effective dietary practices, like I outlined, most of those things, help you reduce processed carbohydrates. And what I think is happening, there was some study, I think I saved it in a folder somewhere, mainstream medical journal. They put people on I don't know, it was 10 different diets. And they said basically everybody who went on a diet, it worked in the short term, right? And it didn't matter whether they were this or that. And that led people to say, well, is it really just all about the calories? I always say fasting and healthy eating, two sides of the same coin. I often will say it interchangeably because in my mind, it's hard to think about it any differently. If you're in a space that is thoughtful enough to say I'm open to considering fasting, right? To me, that's a very powerful mindset, right? That tells me somebody really open to making changes, moving in a healthy direction. Okay. The other side of that, okay, we have to eat healthy food. Our body's built out of the food we eat. Cells always dying, they're being replaced. We literally rebuild ourselves out of the food that we are eating. So if you want to rejuvenate yourself, remake yourself, okay, what do you want to build yourself out of, I say build yourself out of the very strongest, healthiest, most nutritious, vibrant sort of stuff. That's going to help you build a strong, vibrant life, basically. So we want to find that balance, right? Enough fasting space to open up that space to allow the body to burn through the excess. Enough healthy food, right, to give us the nutrients and nutrition that we need to rebuild our body in the healthiest ways, okay? And that's a balance, right? You gotta find that line. And that line is not the same for everybody. And that is another sort of thing that can be difficult for people. People want an exact blueprint, People say, I want you to tell me exactly what to eat, exactly how long to fast on these sort of days. And that's not really the way it works, as far as my experience has been. On a certain level, we're all human beings, and so certain things are all the same, right? We all need to eat. We all need to drink. We all need sleep. Okay, but within that broad concept, the actual amount of these things is very different. When I was at the university, I was on campus. I have some athletes that are, top D1. I'm thinking of a guy now on the rowing team. And these people are just maniac, exercisers. They're just rowing. And this guy, and he wants to get on to the Olympic team and all this. He's eating like almost 8,000 calories a day, and he's not gaining weight. But he's just, so, okay. I can't even imagine eating that much, even when I was like 17 on the track team, and I ate a lot. So yeah, we're all unique. We all have a different situation. Someone else is in a totally different place. And, say someone else is overweight and they don't really have an exercise practice and they're trying to lose weight. Okay, look, those would be like the two different extremes. And then you say like within that, okay, there's like a lot of variation. And so it doesn't look the same for everybody. But that's why I like the idea of fasting as like a dial, because dial is something that can be turned very slowly and gently, and it's something that can be fine-tuned, and it's something that's flexible and can adjust over time. And so if you're on a path, you say, I'm trying to lose weight for free. I'm trying to dial in on fasting. Think of it like a dial. If you watch a lot of fasting content online, people say it's like it's only three things. It's like it's 16-8, or it's OMAD, like 1 meal a day eating, or it's like doing a longer fast. And people get kind of pegged into these things. And I say, let's like really open that up, because like, let's say you've never done any fasting, but you normally don't eat, after 8 o'clock. And then you have breakfast around 8. So that's kind of your baseline. You have 12 hours of fasting in a day, right? And you say, I'm not losing weight there. You don't have to go from 12 to 16 right away, right? That's like the dial. Many subtle levels in between there, and you can slowly close that gap over time. And then that gap could look like you're still eating 3 meals, but you're kind of bringing that first one closer, and maybe it eventually merges into 2. Then you're opening up a little more fasting space. Dial in as much or as little of it as you need. And I do think, so I outlined earlier the benefits of structure, because as we keep going on a pattern at the same time, it's kind of programming the brain. We eat at this time, lines up the hunger at that time. And that's the huge benefit to it. The other side of it that I just want to throw out in this session is that there's great benefit also to having flexibility. I consider fasting to be a practice of openness. And one of the original reasons I started, my website and making fasting content is, the fasting stuff that is out there, which, it's fine, but it can be very rigid.